always ready just in case, and that's what makes it so great. And while it should cost an arm and a leg, it doesn't, and that's because they're good people. They charge what's fair. That's right. $14.99 a month. That's all. No contracts, no hidden fees. I recommend SimpliSafe to everyone I know, and you've got to check it out. So go to simplysafe.com/sideways. That's simplysafe.com/sideways. And really, if there's an ogre with a club, just run away.
We're back. So theory number 1 is the creek.
Yeah, the creek.
Highly unlikely, but I'll have it on here anyway, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, the divers found nothing. There has been official journalistic reporting that says that, yes, this is what happened to her. Realistically, there is no evidence for or against this.
Yeah. Well, I guess in theory, if there had been enough flow and if she had some, it would have been a fluke, but it's conceivable she gets all the way down to the ocean without hanging up on something. Which would be fluky, but I guess it's conceivable.
I don't think it's as fluky as you do because she's a 5-year-old girl. She's a little... It's not me with my arms and legs flailing around as I'm tumbling through water. I am more likely to snag on something than someone that is a quarter of my size because there's much smaller dangly bits. So I could see her bouncing off stuff. It also depends on what she's wearing.
Yeah.
So if she was, if she was in that rain jacket that we talked about that maybe she was wearing that was super hot, those things are kind of have big seams and straps and stuff, so that would hang up. Whereas if she was just in, say, a t-shirt, well, that leaves less stuff to snag on things. Barring all of the kookiness down the line that we're going to talk about, I kind of think that this might be what happened because if it's flood stages, 2 miles is not a very long time.
The trick with this one, for me, is that there is just as much evidence that this happened as any of our other theories.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
here's the thing about water in flood stages is picking up lots of crap and flushing it all downstream, and it winds up building up in all kinds of places in what we call strainers. These are just big, huge, like piles of brush and branches or God knows what that the water flows through, and then you get pushed up against it, but the pressure won't let you move, and you drown or die of exposure. And so, it's just unlikely that she would have avoided all that debris.
But it's only 2 miles. What you're talking about is things that happen over the course of miles and miles, those pockets and those whirls and those eddies.
2 miles is a long ways in a creek.
It is, but again, I think that at flood stage, there's less of those pockets for her to get caught in. But it doesn't matter. This is the one that I think is got to be the most likely based on everything else that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen happen to things in water before.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Like hard drives that are neutrally buoyant.
She was wearing rain boots, and I guess one would assume that... I guess I would just assume that...
Those would get sucked off.
That something would have surfaced at some point.
It's really a shame that they didn't actually just... right after they started searching the creek, that they didn't send somebody down to the beach, just wait there
immediately,
see what comes popping out.
Yeah, it's a shame, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
The next theory is the theory I'm calling the mysterious couple.
I've known a lot of those. It's like, how do these two get together? Because it's just so weird. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you and your wife. Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
That one's not so strange.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
It's weird.
We're kind of opposite.
Yeah. Anyway, the mysterious couple comes from Anna's oldest brother. Okay.
Nanda?
Yeah, Nanda. I was just going to say, I've seen it reported that he is 9 years older than her, but I've seen it reported that it was either of the brothers that remembered this. But 30 years after her disappearance, one of her older brothers recalled that a month or so prior to Anna's disappearance,
it took him 30 years to remember this?
He had repressed it, apparently.
Okay.
The kids had been walking together, and a car pulled up driven by a man, and a woman was in the passenger seat. He described the car as a 1960s model Chevrolet Impala, because we're not supposed to say Chevy anymore.
It's Chevy.
You can't say Chevy?
Get
anymore?
over it.
supposed to
It's a
say it.
Chevy, America.
When did that rule come out?
A couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Chevy
Okay.
was like, we don't want to be Chevy, we want to be Chevrolet.
That's because they
Oh.
were trying to distance themselves from Chevy Chase.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Chevy
don't
Chase
know.
the town or the actor?
The actor.
Oh, okay.
Because have you seen Fletch?
Yeah, actually, it was not very good. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is why they wanted to distance themselves. It took them
It took them a long time to figure
it
that out.
Okay,
but
so
Yeah.
anyway, it was a Chevrolet Impala with Washington license plates, not California or
which,
Oregon.
by the way, that's like 1,000 miles north.
Some odd, yeah.
This is a lot of detail to remember 30 years later.
It sure is.
Yeah.
The woman had long dark hair and wore a loose-fitting white shirt with embroidery on it. Anna's brother could not describe the man. Apparently, she tried to coax Anna. The woman tried to coax Anna into the car, and Anna refused, and so they just drove away.
And I've seen in different recollections, different details about him saying how he felt about the whole thing. Does it feel convenient that it's a 30-year later revelation to anybody?
Yeah, a little bit.
It smacks strange for me.
Well,
and
it's-
I understand that people do remember things suddenly. I've done it, but I don't
It's
know.
well, first of all, it's like, memory is unreliable. You don't know that he actually had this memory. He dreamed it after all this time, or
Watched a
maybe he
TV documentary about the stranger danger, and
yeah, or he dredged up an old memory, and his memory kind of embroidered it. But it certainly, I don't even know why he bothered to mention it, because it certainly is useless at this point in time.
Correct.
Wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
I would, yeah. But I guess it's a theory that they could be involved somehow in her disappearance.
like they were the ones
They
that
could
were
have been
responsible.
prowling to abduct her or any other, cute little girl.
They're out on a scouting mission. They spotted Anna and thought, hey, yeah,
It's a little girl
possible.
scavenger hunt, so they came
Yeah.
by the next month and tried again.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But again, just as much evidence for this as any of her other theories.
Okay.
Yeah.
There have been theories that Anna is the San Gregorio State Beach remains, or the Doña Ana County Jane Doe, the Allegheny County Jane Doe 1985, or the Newport News City Jane Doe. She's none of those.
Geez, they DNA'd the hell out of those corpses.
I don't know. I think that they just weren't. They didn't match. One of them, the beach remains, was actually a boy, and the other Jane Does were too old or something.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for Anna's mother, because every time a Jane Doe is linked,
Oh, yeah.
not when they're found, but when somebody links them to this case, I can only imagine that it just opens the whole bag open
yeah.
again, and you got to go through everything all over again to find out, oh no,
Yeah.
not it.
And I don't know if the police actually do that, or if that's just like Reddit, web sleuths that do that.
These
I
are
don't
old
know.
enough that I have a feeling that a lot of this, or some of this, has got to be pre-heavy internet sleuthing. I think some of it might be like news reporters and what's his name, the friend that was playing PI.
Doug French.
Yeah, you know, guys like him who, oh hey, I found out about this one. Let's check it out. Like, I'm not saying he did it, but people who are trying to be helpful.
Well, the State Beach remains, that one was the police. They really did they thought those remains were her, because it was a small
and that
child.
was
It was
a
very
jawbone
close.
and part of a skull.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was pretty close to
Yeah.
Half Moon Bay, but all the other ones, I think.
They're so far away that,
Yeah, and there's
Newport
the-
News, I mean, you're talking like East Coast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is this draw for people, I think, to constantly. We see this all the time with disappeared, missing people, where people then go through Jane and John Doe cases and say, "Oh, this person kind of matches the description. Oh, only except for they were 3 feet shorter and had blue hair instead of."
Hey, close enough.
Or blue
Yeah.
eyes instead of brown eyes, but, they died 20 years later, and this person would have been that age, so...
There you go.
And there's like a grasping at straws phenomenon a little bit.
It's just unfortunately for all the missing kids that are out there, that just ain't enough Jane Does and John Does to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or there are too
unfortunately,
many, probably.
Yeah.
That's probably actually more
That
accurate.
happens, yeah. Anyway, our next and final theory
Oh no, there's another
is
theory.
George squared.
Is that like square dancing?
Yeah,
Or is that like the math problem?
both.
Okay.
All of the
Because
above.
I remember in high school algebra / calculus / trigonometry /
country
astrophysiology,
Yeah.
there was the George squared problem.
Sure.
So this is the last theory. You don't have a theory about the cats murdering her because she was annoying them with their singing or anything
No,
like
I
that?
don't.
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
No,
Listen, if anybody's cats were gonna kill them because of annoying singing,
It'd be
Joe,
yours.
Yeah.
you'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
No, my cats love my singing.
Nope.
Did they talk to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They've written us scathing letters about your singing.
Correct.
Those little backstabbers.
Yeah.
They're not going to get their extra snacks
They're
tonight.
back
Yeah.
clawers,
Yeah.
not stabbers.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. Let's go ahead and dive
Okay,
into
let's
this
get
issue.
for reals here. Okay.
Basically, the theory, I call it George squared. It's that George, her father, her biological father, and his weird
George
relationship,
Brody.
George Brody, had something to do with her disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be wondering why, other than, just a divorce, why we would say that George might kidnap his own daughter.
Not unusual, actually.
It's not unheard of. It's actually pretty frequently happens, I think. But it actually has a lot more to do with Brody and his relationship with Anna than it has to do with George and his relationship with Anna.
Which is, I don't know how many times Brody actually met Anna.
I don't either.
He seemed to be kind of obsessed with her, from what I heard.
He was.
Yeah,
So he had to have met her at least once.
apparently, or at least seen a picture of her.
Yeah, it may have even just been a picture for all
Yeah.
I know. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, George would call Brody. He was pretty
He
much
was the decision maker of the relationship.
He was pretty much incapable of making a decision without Brody's input, and I believe I have read reports that it came down to even like what was George going to eat for lunch.
Huh.
So there you go.
Okay, so yeah, I'll wait until we get to that part of the story because some of that information I question.
Fair enough. As also mentioned, George financially supported Brody 100%. Honestly, for me, when I first started reading this story, and for a lot of people, I think there was a bit of a question of whether Brody was even real or not.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the reason for that is because George was diagnosed schizophrenic, and that was affecting his behavior a lot. And I think some people just thought, well, maybe Brody's just a made-up guy.
Yeah, just an alternative personality.
Just
you
some
know.
sort of, part of his mental illness.
And obviously, I think we need to say it now is that George was not receiving, as far as I can tell, any medical treatment to help him with that condition.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
Which puts him into that position of, as we've talked about before, he becomes prey and just as likely to be hurt, or more likely to be hurt than anybody else by his illness.
Yeah, I think it's likely that actually Brody was taking advantage of his illness.
Probably.
But I'll just, put that out there that there was a question. Brody was real. He was a real human.
That's
We've
what
seen
I
photos
understand,
of
yeah.
Seen photos of him, but the relationship there even really does seem even like Brody could have just as easily been some sort of manifestation of George's mental illness.
This is
Does,
kind of what was that movie Edward Norton was in? Fight Club.
Yeah.
Fight Club. It's
Yeah.
that kind of
Can
scenario.
you imagine old Brad Pitt? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler
And that's not to
Durden
say
is
that
not-
that's how schizophrenia manifests itself, but George was diagnosed shortly after Anna's birth with schizophrenia.
That's kind of sad. But did Brody, did he have any medical expertise at all or anything like that?
Brody, no, he didn't. He wasn't a doctor or anything.
Brody, yeah, so he didn't have
No.
any psychiatric,
No.
education or experience.
Not as
or
far.
anything.
Very little is known about Brody,
Uh-huh.
but as far as I know, he didn't have any experience in anything.
Yeah.
He was a bit
He was
cuckoo
kind
for
of a-
Cocoa Puffs.
he was
that
kind
of-
we
Sounds
know.
like-
He was
but
kind of
that's
a
it.
freeloader.
Yeah,
as it
it
turns out,
sounds
yeah.
like too. There
Yeah.
are plenty of those. But so I assume he's dead by now. Does anybody know?
We'll talk about that in a second, actually.
All right.
I just want to get through what we were talking about
Yeah.
a second ago. I don't know if George was diagnosed with schizophrenia before or after the divorce. I know he was diagnosed because he was behaving erratically, and in a manner that was not normal for him. And he actually, reportedly displayed a lot of behaviors that did demonstrate him to sometimes, not always, but sometimes be a danger to himself and others. But his family didn't want to have him committed to an institution because they wanted him to be able to retain his physician's license.
Which family members do you know? At first I thought it was the wife, but then I'm like, no, because like that doesn't make any sense. Or is it his?
I have no
adult
idea.
Family?
To be honest with you, I have no idea.
Because she was getting child support from him when he was gone, but I mean.
But I also don't think after the divorce she would have had no authority with which to make medical decisions for him. So it would have had to have been whoever his next of kin would have been.
Okay.
Is my understanding of how those things work. I've been really lucky to not ever have to deal with such a hard, tough question, but I don't know.
But at the same time, the idea of like.
I couldn't imagine somebody with a good conscience letting him continue to practice medicine, knowing that he is not experiencing reality as reality always is.
And he was still practicing medicine.
I know.
We should be clear about that for everybody who's listening.
Yeah,
that not only did he retain his doctor's license, he was a practicing physician through this entire thing.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like when they moved to the Tenderloin, he was working 2 jobs at 2 different places.
Yeah.
Like, who thinks that's a good idea?
Maybe he didn't have a very bad case
without treatment.
Maybe he was under his maybe actually he was getting medicated.
Yeah. I don't really know. But like I said, there have been reports that he was kind of a danger sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So that's something.
Although again, sometimes in custody battles too, charges like that get made. So maybe he wasn't a danger. Or
I don't think there was a custody battle. I don't think anybody thought that Anna should ever go live with him. I don't even think.
I think George Square just walked away.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, despite Brody's weird obsession that we are just about to talk about, I have never once read anything about a custody battle. It's been my understanding the entire time that Michaela was just was always going to have custody of Anna. That's my understanding of it.
Well, that's good. That saves you a lot on lawyer fees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should talk about Brody's obsession with Anna because we've been talking around it.
We've been dancing around this.
He was this very odd obsession with Anna, and as mentioned, I don't actually know if he ever met her or just saw pictures of her or what, but he said that he thought she was the reincarnation of a woman that he used to live with.
I've seen most places I see it say it was a woman that he had a long-term relationship with.
Yeah.
So I would presume some kind of partner relationship.
Yeah.
And then she died.
She died.
Reborn in Anna.
Yes, because she died 2 months before Anna was born. Because that's how that stuff works with the eternal wheel.
Is there so there's a waiting period then? You don't just immediately get repatriated into a new bod. You got to wait 2 months out there in the ether for.
It's funny you asked me that because I've been reading about Buddha lately, but I'll tell you about that later on.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Basically, Brody had George ask Michaela to legally change Anna's name to Eifee.
E-I-F-E-E, however you pronounce it.
It's not a real thing. It's not a real name, so it doesn't matter. It has zero meaning whatsoever. The reason that Brody wanted Anna's name to be changed to that is because it would mean that her name would numerology.
See, that's how real it is. When you can't even say it, it's not a real thing.
Numerologically, maybe, add up to his name. And I should also mention here that George Brody is probably a fake name.
Yeah, we don't actually.
As far as
we don't have a social security number. We don't have crap on this guy.
We don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about this, actually, to be honest
If it happened,
with you.
I kind of doubt that it did happen, I don't. Would you change the name of your kids? Well, my weird friend wants you to change the kid's middle name.
No.
Would you?
First name, Anna.
Oh, was it the first name?
It's supposed to be the first
name. I thought that he wanted it to be her middle name.
Yeah, see, I saw everywhere that it was that I was looking at, and I've also seen it said that she did change the middle name to Eifee.
Yeah.
Or Eifee, or however
I have no idea
it.
Or maybe actually happened.
Or maybe she just told George, I took care of that. I changed it.
Well, and that would be the smartest way. If you know that he is easily riled up and unstable, then the easy answer is to say, I took care of it. You know how the county is. The paper's in the mail. It'll show up on these. Just tell Brody it's fine. Go away, George Square.
Yeah, it's in the pipeline. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, that kind of seems like enabling behavior. Like you're enabling Brody, or you're even enabling your ex-husband and father of your child to